Welcome to this week's Whole Wheat Costa. For Kev, I'm Jay, and today we're starting the second season of Star Wars Clone Wars, the TV show. We're going to do parts 1 and 2 of a three-parter. We're going to start with Holocron Heist, and we're going to start going to Cargo of Doom. Kev, you want to start us off with Holocron Heist?
Yeah, so Cad Bane infiltrates the Jedi Temple and attempts to steal an ancient Jedi holocron. It's up to Ahsoka, Anakin, and Obi-Wan to stop the bounty hunter from escaping with the valuable Jedi artifact. So,
real quick. What I said last week was about how when they introduced Cad Bane to like bust out Zero the Hutt, I'm like, I feel like they're just out of nowhere, just introducing this brand new character at the last episode. And then you watch the first episode, they're like, Cad Bane. They're like pointing at him. Like, remember the last episode? You're like, oh, that's why it felt so out of place, because they wanted to like do this whole arc.
Yeah, I agree with that. And actually, so if you bring up the Clone Wars Season 2 on the Wikipedia, it's they have the little poster for it as Rise of the Bounty Hunters, all new episodes this fall. I don't really love the Cad Bane character. You know what I kind of do like about him? I love his mouth animation. I don't really know why, but just the way like his teeth move and stuff, or like his mouth moves over his teeth. I don't know. It reminds me of watching Ricky Gervais talk. But I don't know. I think that's like really interesting. It's not like anyone else in this, that like it's not like anyone else's animation that we've seen. His teeth are very prominent in his animation. But I do feel like I guess interesting things about him. I mean, I guess he's like unusually cool, which we've seen. This obviously is not a small kid sort of show, but I felt like these two episodes you have him blow up that unsuspecting droid, which I think I mentioned before, about how some of the ways they treat droids, it's almost like they are allowing a higher level of violence because they're droids, not humans. But I mean, when that unsuspecting droid just blows up, that's pretty dark. And then when they just torture that guy to death in the second episode here, I mean, Jesus.
The Jedi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they like even like the non-thinking droids are like, oh no, he's dead. Like, what do we do? He's like, okay, we'll just go get another Jedi. And you're like, that's what? This isn't a children's show. This is like a soap opera that you would see in like, when children are in school.
Yeah, I know. It's So that was a lot. I also thought so I was thinking when I went to bed last night because so our usual pattern. So we podcast pretty early in the morning. It doesn't get released for a while for you guys, but so we usually get up really early. I watch the episodes the morning of again and stuff, and I was thinking to myself like, oh man, this is definitely going to be a 3-part episode to start the season, and we usually plan to watch 2 episodes. And I was like, we've been burned by this before, but it is what it is. We're going to talk about two of the 3 parts tomorrow, I guess. And that's exactly what happened. And I was mad about it once I realized. But
it gives them, the listener, you guys, something to tune in for. Like, oh, what are they going to say about the 3rd part? And then that works for me.
Exactly. I'm feeling like this is this trilogy part 1, and then next week, we'll talk about part 2 and. You guys have to, like and subscribe and all that stuff to hear the second part.
So talk about Cad Bane. What I like and I don't like about him is basically the same thing. I like how meticulous at planning he is and like how good he is, but I also don't like how he's perfect at everything. Like he's the James Bond of like bad guys. He's like he knows a little bit about everything. He's always dipping good guys, and it's like he just escapes. It's like nothing. Like he's like the opposite of Anakin. Like nothing can happen to him. He's the bad guy. Nothing bad's going to happen to him.
I agree. I feel like there's not a lot of tension in the duels with Cad Bane. I feel like I feel like he just has as much plot armor as the main protagonist. That's what's been interesting. Honestly, I mean, just into the first 2 episodes of season 2, it's a little bit like later seasons of Game of Thrones, right? Like last season, how many characters do we have that we're introduced to, and we're like, oh, that guy's going to be an important character, and then he's dead. Like,
right.
Like it happened a lot last season.
Yeah, and you have like Cad Bane, the last episode of season 1, and this first and second season where like he has like all these people around him, and you're like, oh, they're all expendable because I learned this. He doesn't care about his crew, and it's like, how's a guy build up such a reputation as like such a bounty hunter? Like, wouldn't he build up a reputation as like a good bounty hunter, but he killed like his crew is like super expendable? Like, you'd have to pay me a ton.
That's true. I wonder if they would know. I mean, I guess he must get a reputation going in, but I guess the sort of bounty hunter type, right, would assume that they're fine on their own. So even if they worked for someone that didn't care about them, they would assume that they were fine. That they would get by on their own skill and ability and not die, even if he didn't care if they died or not. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, Cad Bane just has a plot armor, like I assume, and especially now that I've seen that poster about like, which I guess if you're watching these when they came out, you would have seen that advertising stuff. Like I would just assume that Cad Bane will be here at least the whole season, and maybe after that. I mean, they could shock us and kill him next episode, but I would assume that's not going to happen.
Yeah. So and yeah, like you said, he's ruthless. Like he'll just kill. And like he'll kill his crew, and he's like, well, as long as I get out, and then like and he doesn't actually care about like the bad guys, like Newt Gunray. Newt Gunray in the second episode tells him, hey, I gave you like 4 ships and like all those droids, like you got to pay me back for those. He's like, well, my master will do that. Like he doesn't even care that Newt Gunray, the leader of the Separatist army, is like, well, you got to pay me or like I'm coming after you. And he's like, I don't care. He's like, I have a higher power that's protecting me. Like he just doesn't care. And I think that's kind of cool, but also the plot armor is like not cool. There's no tension, like you said.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's I mean, I guess that's part of the characters around him being expendable is we're going to meet some of them and like some of them, or at least get attached to some of them in some way, and they're going to go away. But as long as he's the main focus of the episodes, then it's never that much, Like I keep in my head picturing that Argus guy, the Senate trooper, from the one arc in season 1 where he was working with Newt Gunray, I believe, to, I forget, they're trying to capture somebody. Honestly, it's a little bit fuzzy now exactly what they're trying to do, but I remember him.
They were trying to keep Ventress locked away, I think.
No, that's what it was. No, they captured Newt Gunray, I think.
Oh, right.
And
right.
Ventress was trying to save him, and they worked with that Senate commando. But either way, that Senate trooper was really sticks out in my head, and I've remembered him when we talk about a lot of these characters. So because he was really the focus of the episode, and they really took time building him up. So if they do that with some of the side characters related to Cad Bane, I mean, that might work. But if Cad Bane continues to be the focus of these episodes, we're not going to care that, like here, like we don't, like did you care when they captured that changeling or even remember the name of that changeling?
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can't rely on that. I mean, I guess the most memorable character in these episodes was Cad Bane's droid that he suicide bombed. Like, yeah. And again, that was pretty dark.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, speaking of traitors, I read something on Benedict Arnold the other day, like, the traitor of the American Revolution. But
yeah.
But like, if you read about like he actually was a British soldier like everybody else, and he was like a traitor to them. And then like he's like, nah, I want back in because like everybody like wrote his history, like he was actually like a very good like commander, and like he won battles, and everyone was like, oh, George Washington's the best, even though George Washington like lost battles. And Benedict Arnold was like, oh, well, actually I won the battle, and I'm like, well, George Washington's the best. and like other people got like all this like stuff, and he just got tired of it, and he went to the British Army. He's like, I kind of want back in. I kind of want respect, and everyone's like, you're a traitor. And he's like, well, I'm a double traitor now. You know?
I heard that before too. I also, the little bit I know about Revolutionary War stuff from about George Washington was that he, from what I understand, he was not a very good general. He just was, which was just such an American thing. He just would not. He just kept fighting until they won. Like, it wasn't that he was particularly skilled. He just refused to give up. So
he was a 6'2" Chad.
Exactly.
But like he one of the tactics George Washington used, which is also very like very America thing, is like, because he was 6'2", so he got all his biggest like soldiers and all the smallest horses, and he rode the biggest soldiers on the smallest horses. So when they came over the hill, they're like, oh no, the Americans are giant, because the Americans on average were like already 2 inches taller than the British, because better fields and everything. Like we didn't already blow out like the nutrition, so we had better nutrition and stuff like that. So he had like all these giant men on these small horses, and like it was like one of those tactics where like the British are like, oh no, the Americans are giants. And I think that's hilarious about George Washington. Like, he was terrible, like he was a terrible commander, but like he did all this like shit that the British never like would ever thought of.
I feel like I've heard that fact specifically from you before, actually. And I'm so entertained by that fact.
Yeah, it's great. Like the whole thing about him crossing the Delaware to kill like Hessians, because no one thought like they would fight on like Christmas. Like that's like one of like many stories where they're like, oh, George Washington won't march 600 miles and fight us, and then like 3 weeks early he shows up to a battle and he's like, oh, let's kill everyone.
Kind of like saying bad things happen in Philadelphia because Philadelphia won't do anything back, and then you win the whole presidential election.
Yeah, yeah. And I was talking about another American hero, John Paul Jones, who fought for the British, and then he fought for the Americans, and everyone's like, oh, he's so good, he's got to be a pirate. And then he's like, I'm going to go fight for the Russians.
Yeah, I don't know.
Back to Star Wars. Sorry about that.
Well, even before you go to Star Wars, if you're watching this in early November and you haven't looked them up, even if you're not from the same area we're from, look up Philadelphia gritty memes, because they're all great.
All right, so you want to move on to the second episode, Cargo of Doom?
Yes. Anakin and Ashoka intercept Cad Bane's warship, hoping to recover the stolen Jedi Holocron, but the Jedi underestimate the bounty hunter's cunning tactics. Because once again, he just has the plot armor, so whatever he does is going to work. So it doesn't even matter how much you estimate him; it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I didn't mind the first episode, and I didn't mind the first half of this episode where like Cad Bane's like, whatever, destroy the ship. We'll destroy the ship. I have a plan. And you're like, well, what's his plan? Like, is he going to escape pod or whatever? And then like his whole plan towards the end of the episode comes together, and you're like, wait, his plan was to destroy his ship, beat up a stormtrooper, get onto the Republic ship, and then steal a TIE fighter, or not a TIE fighter, but a Republic fighter, getting into a hyperdrive ring, and then like take off. Like, that was his whole plan. Like, if it really felt like they set it up like that was his whole plan, but at the same time it really felt like he was just like shooting from the hip.
So even though that was a ridiculous plan, it's Cad Bane, so it's going to work.
Don't you love how this is the third episode with Cad Bane, and you're like, oh, okay, it's going to work, because he's basically evil James Bond.
Yeah. I kind of didn't like, this is back to the first episode a little bit, sorry, because I got distracted by other stuff, but I kind of didn't like some of the plot. I don't know. I feel like there were some plot contrivances that didn't jive with me for, again, the sort of adultness of these episodes with, with the droid suicide bomber and torturing somebody to death, the whole like, oh, well, Ahsoka's in trouble, so now she's going to be put in a place that's the very plot of the next thing that happens just by accident. I mean, I guess maybe that was the Force directing them to do that subconsciously or something, but it was like, oh, come on, really? Like probably no one's attacked these archives in 1,000 years, and now today is the day. At least,
oh yeah,
at least show her being bored for like a month there first, and then that happens. Have some montage of her falling asleep on the job.
Or like, like set it up so that, Palpatine knows that this youngling is now the guard of the temple, and he's like, oh shit, I got a good idea why she's the guard. You know what I mean? Like, show him walking by and be going, hi, youngling, and like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And she's at like a youngling's now guarding the temple, and like he's like, oh, we'll get the holocron now. Cad Bane. I know for a fact that the youngling is protecting the temple. Like, we can go into the archives, and like, no, they didn't do any of that.
That's really good, actually. That would have been a really good idea. And then the other with the droid suicide bomber, like, so if you're gonna put in a bomb that's going to explode, like, you must have some bomb that doesn't flash red and make a noise before it explodes, right? Like what would the practical purpose of that be if you're trying to surprise people with the droid suicide bomber? They're like, oh no, it's a bomb. Like we have that scene. Like,
that is written for children or younger adults or whatever. So you're like, oh shit, that's a bomb because it's beeping and there's a countdown and so.
I guess, but then, like, I don't know. That doesn't jive with the super dark, like, this droid's, shocked that he got betrayed and is about to die. Like, well, I don't know. They're like, oh no, it's a bomb. Like, I don't know.
Well, you need it with some comic relief in these, Jar Jar Binks like diffusing the bomb on accident, or
yeah, tripping over the droid, knocking the bomb out of his back, and then it goes down the back into the tunnel, and then nobody dies, and the droid's fine, and the droid's like, oh, I'm going to work for you guys now, and then they sell merchandise of them.
Yeah. Hey, did we just rewrite the beginning of the second season?
I think so. The other is in episode 2. And this is the Cad Bane thing, because I feel like when Cad Bane said to Anakin, like, oh, you think you're going to kill me, kill my 2 droids, and turn off the airlock before your Padawan gets sucked out into space? I feel like if that was anyone but Cad Bane, Anakin would be like, yeah, and then just stop it. And that's effectively what he did in the end.
Yeah, except like he should have just like thrown his lightsaber at Cad Bane, like caught it back, and then like, and then it's like or like he was super close. He could have just cut off his arms and be like, yep, and then like killed the droids and be like, all right, we're taking your rest. Oh wait, you're dead. Yeah,
I feel like that's exactly what I was thinking. I feel like he could have cut Cad Bane's arm off long before he could have pushed the button.
Or pushed Cad Bane into that wall and held him.
Yeah, true. That's true, because if you're against that, it seems like that wall hurts. So if he just held him against that wall, there's no way he'd be able to push that button, or at least it would take him a couple seconds to like recover from the shock to be able to push the button.
Yeah, and they always talk about how good of a Jedi Anakin is and like how powerful he is. And we've seen him push like tanks out of the way. So he could push a little bug alien with a respirator into a wall while deflecting the troopers like shooting at him.
What do you think the significance was of Cad Bane taking Ahsoka's hair bead?
Oh, it's what are those things called? Bounty hunters take them of the younglings to show like people, because they showed, I read something about Boba Fett about like his armor. He had a bunch of little hair beads, which means he's like killed Jedi, like Padawans. It's a trophy.
Yeah, that makes sense. They just showed it so prominently. Like, I mean, I didn't know if that was just a character moment of like, oh yeah, he was a real asshole. He took her hair bead and he's gonna kill her, or if there was some future significance to it, like some other changeling is gonna change into her by using her hair bead or something. I guess maybe we'll see in the third episode, because I feel like if that's not, I don't know. I feel like if that's a Chekhov's gun, I feel like it has to be fired next episode, right?
Yeah,
we're not going to see it halfway through the season.
Yeah, I think it's either lore or canon where they make where they make that a thing where like if a bounty hunter shows you the beads, like he's a good bounty hunter, like he's killed a Jedi.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the problems with this series a little bit is that it has a really good storytelling, but I also feel like these things are so episodic that we do have references to past things, but I feel like it's a lot of series of like one-off episodes, or it's these short arcs. I feel like you lose a little bit of the storytelling because I feel like I don't know if they expect people to watch these all in order versus just catching them on TV sometimes, or just watching episodes sometimes. Where I feel like, at least from what I've seen from the first season and now a little bit of the second season, that we're going to get like references back to something that happened like 8 episodes ago or something. Like again, like in a more serious show, that you would. You'd expect to see these like plot things get wrapped up later in the season, or be, or be sort of hints for what's going to happen later in the season. I don't know if it's ever going to happen in the show outside of, 2 or 3 part arcs or whatever, or like really significant things. Like I feel like they'll reference back major events sometimes, but not any of these smaller things like this hair bead.
Yeah, there are and there are people out there like what you call eagle eye reviewers. Like if you see Cad Bane later, and like if he doesn't get arrested or killed in this arc or whatever, like you'll see him in 4th season, like he'll have a hair bead, and you're like, oh look, the hair bead came back, but like other than that, nothing.
That's true. The hair bead better be there. I'm calling it out in future episodes if we see him and there's no hair bead.
Right to producers 10 years later. Look, there's no hair bead. This is ridiculous.
I wonder if it would show. You know what? If it doesn't show up, I'm editing the continuity on the Wikipedias, because they always point out that stuff. Like apparently in episode 2 at approximately 13:24, when Ahsoka falls from Bane's shock, her legs are seen as white like her normal apparel. However, she's wearing a red bodysuit during the scene. I did not notice that during the scene, but apparently it happened.
Yeah, that is weird. Like I did notice the red bodysuit. Like where did that come from? Doesn't she wear other stuff?
Yeah, I noticed that. I thought that was kind of weird because I feel like we've always seen her the same exact thing. So I don't know. Was there a context for that? Was she wearing that because of space? Like I kind of didn't. I didn't pay enough attention to it when she first got it. Or was this
I have no idea.
Or was this like a start of a new season? Like sell Ahsoka in red bodysuit figurines, sort of red bodysuit.
Maybe it's because she's older, so she's not wearing like the adolescent like skirt and shirt.
Maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see next episode. And if there was a really clear explanation for this in the episode, or it was really obvious why she's wearing it, I apologize for this whole discussion here. But I don't remember it. Yeah, I think overall, these were 2 pretty good episodes. I'm not the biggest Cad Bane fan. I will be happy because now we've watched multiple episodes in a row with Cad Bane, so I'll be happy when he is not the focus of one of these episodes. But I don't know. I'm rooting for him. Like I kind of hope they win me over with him, honestly, because I do like his teeth and mouth animation. So.
Yeah. At least you're happy about something.
Yeah, exactly. So I like it on the screen, and I also like I don't know. I feel like close in headshots, which they do a ton of, are really easy to put in the YouTube video when we talk about this stuff. Which I still have to make the one from. I'm about a week behind on these, so you guys have
don't worry.
So you guys have a lot to look forward to, basically, is what I'm saying. Because this week's episode is good. You're not going to hear it until next week. So when you hear last week's episode this week, just think about all the stuff you're going to hear about next week, and it's going to be great.
All right. Well, that's all I have to say about those 2 episodes.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Well, I hope the conclusion is good, and we'll probably start another 2 or 3-parter the week after. So for Kev, I'm Jay. Thanks for listening to this week's Whole Wheat Costa. You can catch us on YouTube where Kevin makes the videos, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. Uh, so thanks for listening.